Welcome, everybody. This is Fernanda Sanchez Yara. She was a former avid student here and it says up here, class of 2013. She can tell you a little bit about, I guess, her journey and we could even start at what it was like in high school for you, or even before then. Remember last time you spoke about coming from another country.
Yeah. My name's Fernanda, like Mr. D said. I was born in Mexico. Me and both of my siblings, I have an older brother and a younger sister, and we came to the US when I was 9. I was in 4th grade. So I was, older already. So it was a bit of an adjustment. Took me some time to learn English, to get comfortable speaking English. I was just talking about this with some of my friends yesterday. Actually, they asked me how long it took me to learn English, and I would say I knew English within like the first year, so it was pretty quick. But like actually getting loose with it took me a couple of years, just because I was so shy and embarrassed to speak it. So that came with a few challenges. I had, pretty bad grades in 5th grade, just kind of as a result of the adjustment. And then I got it together and I started getting good grades again. And then I came into high school, and again, it was a good experience for me. I wasn't like a bad student. I would say I was a pretty good student. I got good grades. I did my homework. I kind of did what I was supposed to do, I guess, if you can say it in that way. And I can't, I feel like every time I come back and speak, it's harder for me to talk about high school because it just keeps getting further and further back.
Do you think as you started high school, did you already have pretty good habits? Do you remember did you study every night? How long do you remember studying and working in high school for studying and doing homework?
Definitely not as much. It kind of gradually kept. So in the moment in high school, I thought I studied a lot and spent so much time on my homework, and then you get to college and you realize, oh no, like that I had so much free time technically. And then you get to law school and it's like, oh wow, like college was a breeze compared to law school. So it's just like it's gradually just keep gotten more and more time spent studying. In high school, I would say I had pretty good habits. I've just always naturally, I think I'm more of a routine person. So I just like routine. So I would come home, go to school, I was in tennis. So tennis practice, come home, do my homework, eat dinner, and then just like watch TV for the rest of the night. And that's just kind of what my life was every single weekday, essentially. I know that's not for everyone, but I think, again, I'm just very routine oriented, and I liked my regimen, and it was just what I did.
Were you involved in other things besides tennis, you mentioned? Clubs or anything like that?
Yeah, I was in clubs. Key Club, I'm sure it's still around. It's big. What other Do Something Club, I don't know if that's still around. International Club, National Honor Society. I don't even know what clubs are still around.
I know some of them we might have done for like avid required participation and stuff.
Yeah.
But you did way more than you needed to. Was there?
Yeah.
What do you remember that was so far long ago? Do you remember a benefit like later in life? Now, do you feel like it was worth being a little bit involved and what you got out of it?
Yeah, for sure. I think when you're in the moment, you don't really think about the benefits that being in clubs and socializing with other people bring to you. But once you're older and you're in college and you're in law school and you're interviewing, you kind of realize that you pick up all these networking skills in clubs that are so useful when you're older. I mean, when you're in high school, we don't really think about networking because we're kids and, we're young. Who cares? Like, why do I need to kind of connect with, my high school peers? But it just builds on those communication skills and just having connections with other people. You just never know where knowing one person is going to lead you in the future. And it's just
Definitely.
Yeah, aside from that, it's just good to socialize, especially after the pandemic when we were all just cooped up at home and we had absolutely no social interaction and we can easily turn off our cameras. I think we all lost a lot of that, in-person interaction, social skills that are crucial because at the end of the day, we're all going to go back out one day. It's not, we're already all pretty almost back to normal, which I don't really know how if that's accurate, but
Would you say, yeah, we're not completely back to normal. Me personally, I'll never be normal.
yeah.
Do you think that you were, I don't remember exactly, were you pretty shy at the beginning of high school? And because I would
Yeah.
think those things would really help get you out of your shell. To be a lawyer, you probably have to be pretty confident and outgoing.
Yeah, I was for sure super shy. I was extremely shy in elementary school, extremely shy in middle school. I think high school is kind of when I forced myself to come out of my shell a little by, being in clubs and talking to other people that I didn't know. And um, I was president of the Do Something Club, one club, and that took a lot out of me. I was super uncomfortable just kind of putting myself in that position, but I just kind of wanted to try it out just because I never had, and I wanted just, to put myself out there and kind of build better skills. Um,
I
so
don't think
yeah, I was,
it's hard for them to appreciate that, right? When you start getting a little bit more involved in a club, you're building these life skills that are going to help you
yeah.
to really be a great leader. And everyone's a leader, whether it's at your home or
Mhm.
whether it's at your job. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, being involved is definitely something that's over long term really good for you. I was very shy
Yeah.
too, believe it or not, when I was in high school. And I think, like you said, there's friends and friends, but also mentors that I have for the rest of my life that I never thought I would. That was like an extra bonus that you meet these people that teach you and help you grow, but they stay with you in your life sometimes.
Yeah, and it's such an easy way because you don't really, when you're in clubs, you're just kind of like hanging out with your friends. You don't really think about that you're building those skills, but it's actually really useful skills that you're building without even thinking about it. So it's such an easy way to do it, to just be involved in clubs and just get to know other people and talk to other people. And clubs are great.
Do you remember what your GPA was or when you were applying more or less?
I really don't. I can't even remember like my first couple years college GPA. I don't know. I really don't remember what it was, but I know it wasn't a bad GPA. It wasn't like wow, amazingly over 4.0, but it wasn't a bad
That makes
GPA.
sense. Um, how would you explain your transition to well, but even before then, do you remember your choice where you thought you might go, which college, and how you decided on the college you chose? I'll go to the next slide. You went to UC Irvine.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was deciding between UC Irvine and UC Santa Barbara, and then I ultimately just chose for two reasons. One was the money. Irvine just kind of allowed me to go there and pay almost nothing. So that was really important to me, especially because, my parents weren't going to be able to help out to pay for anything. And I just didn't know how I could have financed other than with loans. So that was important to me. And then the second thing was my family. Um, I've just always, like I said, I grew up very shy and I was always very family oriented. So I liked that Irvine was far enough where I could kind of, challenge myself and live on my own and kind of grow as an adult that way, but close enough where it's like if I was having a mental breakdown, I could come home. So those were the two major factors of why I chose Irvine. I went in undecided as a major, so it wasn't even any academic reason for why I chose Irvine. It was the money and how close I was to home.
Let me ask if there's any questions. Any questions about high school or starting college so far? Just when you're undecided, you start your general education, which means it's the classes that everyone has to take, a little bit of math, a little bit of science, a little bit of English. That's a good question. So everyone does certain general classes. And then when you decide on your major, you start focusing more on that. But yeah, when you're undecided, you kind of try things out that you have to take anyway. So
Yeah.
let's talk about college. What was that like? Or I remember you mentioned your roommate and how your
Yeah.
roommate what your roommate was like, and you mentioned stuff that she was doing in high school. And then I'll ask you in a minute, like, what do you think you wish you had done more or prepared or even knew before you got to college?
Yeah. So the transition to college was pretty shocking. You kind of, when we live in Montebello, Pico, Whittier, down, whatever, all our lives, we're kind of in this bubble and we don't really know what goes on outside of it. And then you get to college and you meet people from all these backgrounds, all these nationalities, all these communities, all these schools, and you just kind of realize that, wow, like I really didn't do anything in high school. Mr. D's talking about my one of my college roommates who was doing cancer research in high school, and I was just completely shocked when she told me this, just because I had absolutely no idea that high school kids got these kinds of opportunities, just because I never even heard of it. I was never exposed to it. I never heard of anyone at MHS ever doing cancer research, any research for that matter. So it was a bit of a shock, just kind of, you get good grades in high school, you're pretty smart, you're involved, and then you get to see all these other people who have been a lot more fortunate than you
Yeah,
have.
you go to
So much
college and
experience.
everyone's smart and a good student,
Yeah,
but then some people do have more opportunities. And even
yeah,
let's say you're rich, right? Your parents could send you to any camp
yeah.
or do stuff that has research in another state. There was a quote one of the students gave me from we put up on the board quotes. When opportunity doesn't knock, make a door. So I would
Yeah.
say, if one advice I would give is make your own opportunities, but you got to start trying to think beyond high school, which means trying to get stuff like volunteer work or internships or things that you're really interested in, especially if you know what you want to study, which not everyone knows.
Hmm. Yeah.
So what
And
was the
then
adjustment like when you got to college?
what was the what? Sorry.
The adjustment? How was the adjustment?
Um, I would say some parts were easy and some parts were tough. The tough one was kind of, coming to the realization that I'm not the smartest person
You're very
there,
smart.
and just kind of dealing with all that and not kind of knowing at the same time, because a lot of people go into college exactly knowing what they want to do as well after college. So like you said, thinking beyond high school, they're thinking way beyond high school when they're in high school. They're not just thinking about college or thinking about what they want to do after, which I don't think it's the only way to go. I think that can be very overwhelming. And I think I wasn't thinking beyond college, beyond getting accepted to college in high school. And I think it turned out pretty okay. But I think, kind of having some sort of idea of what you want to do, and it's going to change. It's not, I'm not saying, pick something and stick with it forever, but just kind of having, I guess the better word is a goal, going in with a goal, know what you want to do, because I think once you're in college, there's absolutely no one on you telling you what to do. It's you choose your own classes, you choose your schedule, you choose whether you want to go to class, you choose whether you want to do your homework. So the independence aspect of it can also be tough. Again, I am very routine oriented, so I think that wasn't as tough for me as I saw other friends struggling with, who just no routine meant they just kind of wanted to do whatever they wanted to do all day.
Sometimes routine feels like you're being controlled, but in reality, like it's very good for you to have structure. I think
Yeah.
for me, I think when we went on lockdown, it showed being on your own is not as easy as we think. And having your own ability, it could stay in bed or not get up or do my homework or not do my homework. It's actually difficult if you don't build up the discipline before you
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah. And I think college, a good aspect of it is like you can build your own routine. So in high school, you have a routine that somebody gives you and you have to stick with it. And it doesn't, some people are not morning people. So it's like you're asking people that are night owls to get up early in the morning and go to school. Whereas in college, you have the freedom to make a routine that works specifically for you. So
You can
I
have
think that's
evening
a great
classes,
aspect.
afternoon classes. Yeah.
Exactly. Like that's a really easy way to find out what works for you, and a better chance that you're actually going to stick with it. which is something that, again, the adjustment takes a while if you're not already routine oriented. But once you find it, I think it's something very beneficial about college. So you can just make your own hours pretty much.
And what were your involvements and stuff like in college, or how did you come to deciding you want to study criminology, law, and psychology and social behavior?
So it was a process of elimination. I remember in high school, I did think about becoming a lawyer, but I never really actively took any steps to look into what it took to become a lawyer. So it was just kind of more of like, I don't know, a thought, a dream, maybe. And then in college, I knew I did not like science. I did not like math. So that kind of just left me with the social sciences. And then I took a few law classes in college just to like kind of really try it out and see whether it was something that I would like to do. And then I had a friend who her boyfriend was pre-law, like he was pre-law course, he was going to law school, he was doing all the things to go to law school. So then that kind of, I hadn't like made up my mind 100% that I was going to pursue law school, but I knew that I kind of wanted to stay on that path just in case. So that's how I ended up choosing my majors. And I just genuinely found them interesting. Those were the classes that I just liked the most. I suffered in all the other GE classes that they made me do science. Though I got away with not taking math. I took linguistics as my math GE and
Wow.
it worked. I don't know how, but I took it. And statistics, of course, statistics is just important all around. So that's kind of how I chose my major.
Did you
Just kind of,
did you take notes in college? A lot of notes.
yeah, I did.
How did you use, like, what was your routine to use them? You take notes in class, and then what would it be like? Or how much time would you even spend every day to study when you're in college?
So in college, I would do my readings for class, and then you would I would do my readings, take reading notes, and then you go to class, you take lecture notes, and then maybe once or twice a month, I would compile my reading notes and my lecture notes and kind of look through both of them and just put them together. Just it was a way of studying for me, reviewing both of those notes and just putting them together. And then right before an exam, I would go through my compiled notes and then review quickly my separate notes. Just they were usually a lot more longer and detailed than my compiled notes, and I would make even a shorter outline to use as my study guide. I wouldn't say that I studied every day in college. It was mainly just right before finals that I would hardcore study, but I would review my notes constantly, just kind of preparing for class.
Would you like highlight them or write on them?
Yeah.
Or what, how would you interact with them?
Yeah, I'm a big highlighter, annotator on my own notes. It just kind of helps me read and process things differently than I did the first time, just for better retention. And even through law school, that's the way that kind of everyone does it, and you're taught to do it, to just make outlines and then review your outlines, edit your outlines, make new outlines. It's just outlines left and right in law school. That's just how everyone does it. And I just happen to have been doing that since college. I'm not sure how I even started picking that up. In high school, we would do Cornell notes. I don't know if that's still an avid thing.
Now we get to do anything, outlines, Cornell, any style.
Okay, yeah. So I think I like that better. Just Cornell notes were never that helpful. They were helpful in terms of thinking about the material, but I think just the organization of them, I was just never a fan of. I like just outline format a lot more.
Everyone's different. Yeah, I'm glad they changed it.
Yeah, for sure. You know, different things work for everyone. So yeah, that I would say that was the main way I studied too, just outlining. I'm not a flashcard person. I know a lot of people are, and they're very useful, but I just cannot do flashcards. I'm strictly an outline person.
Is there, I was going to ask you what things you might have been involved in college, but is there anything you could think of that you wish you knew before you got to college to prepare you better?
Yeah, I think now, you know, hindsight 2020, but I wish I would have gained networking skills a lot better. We were talking about clubs and how you that kind of happens organically, but I was talking about I wasn't trying to better those skills. I wasn't trying to, network with people and kind of come out of my shell in that way. It was just organically happening with my friends. I was developing those skills, but I do wish I would have actively networked a lot more in high school. I know that maybe if I had looked for opportunities, I would have found them, but I never did. And then I think in college, I I was kind of there was kind of a regression in shyness once again in college. Just in high school, you get used to everyone that you see every day and you have your friends and you kind of know everyone. But in college, it's so big that I kind of regressed a little bit again, and I just kind of stuck with my group of people that I found. And I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I would have been more involved. The clubs that I was in, it was because my friends were in them. So it wasn't, I wish that I would have just come out of my shell a little bit more and networked a lot more with people that weren't my friends, that weren't in my dorm, that weren't in my classes, just to have more connections or more opportunities coming out of college and into law school.
I think it's almost like working out. Like you don't want to do it, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
sometimes. But then when you do it, you're so glad you did. I feel the same
Yeah.
way that I was very shy. I was involved in some things. I did ASB senior year, and I regret not starting sooner. Or like you said, actually wanting to do it as a thing. You kind of just do it because everyone says to do it, and you're not going to get as much out of it. So now, we're real quick, if you could mention, is there any things that you kind of were involved doing or even fun stuff in college? And then how did we get into law school would be the next question.
Yeah, so in college, I was just in the fun clubs. I didn't really do many academic clubs. I went to like a few pre-law society meetings, again, just because I was scoping it out and trying to decide. But a lot of college, I was just trying to make friends from different backgrounds. That was like my focus. I just wanted to meet people because, I mean, I live in Pico now, and you see the same people every day. So I think that was something that just fascinated me about college. Just you see so many different types of people. So a lot of my clubs were just social clubs, international food club, international dance club.
Do things you like. That's good. It gets you're networking, even though you're not feeling like it.
Yeah, I'm not networking academically, but again, you never know who you're going to meet and how that person's going to connect to you in the future. So yeah, I think I did have a lot of fun in college, and I don't regret it. It was great.
Have you kept friends from high school and college still? Do you keep them? You still have some friends from college and high school?
Yes, I still keep in touch with like my main high school group, Mr. D knows the most well, Monica, Andrea, Steph, Joseph, Julio, my boyfriend Gio.
They're all from Avid too, coincidentally. Yeah. But yeah, she's still dating her high school sweetheart, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, so we all still hang out, at least I would say every couple months. We still keep in touch. And then in college, I'm still extremely close with who were my housemates for most of college. I see them all the time. One of my college housemates actually took the exact same path as me. We kind of went through the whole law school application together. We went to law school at the same time, different law schools. We took the bar together, and now we're working our first year in law firm. So it was nice to have a buddy that I love and I'm extremely close to through all of that.
So let's say you're in college now, you finally decided on your major and you want to be a lawyer. Someone asked, what's the process of becoming a lawyer, and what was that like?
Yeah, so it's not hard. Anybody with any major can really go to law school. In law school, I met people with engineering majors, biology majors, like me, criminology, psychology majors. They're kind of all over the place. You have to take the LSAT to apply to law school.
Like a SAT for law school, to get into law school.
Yeah, there's no math in it, which was a big appeal for me. It's reading comprehension. There's this thing called logic games, which can be fun, but I hated them. And then, I can't even remember the third section of it. But yeah, it's it's basically a test mainly your reading comprehension and your logical analysis. You do, well, you don't have to, but I took a test prep course to take the LSAT. I would recommend it, especially for the logic games, because it's something that you've never seen before. I don't think anyone would ever see them before. Maybe people that have, lawyers in their family probably have, but I don't have any lawyers in my family, so I had absolutely no idea what they were going to test me on the LSAT. So I would recommend taking a test prep course for that, and then you take it, you apply to law schools, and then you get it or not. It's a very simple process, which is something that was really appealing to me, especially having decided for sure to pursue law school pretty late in college. I didn't completely make up my mind until my senior year in college. And then I took the LSAT that summer, applied to law schools that fall, and then took like a gap year, which it's like less than a year technically, but I did take a gap year, and then you start.
As you didn't prepare for it, you're obviously very bright, even though you're not saying you are, because a lot of people, they don't do well, even though they study and study and study.
Yeah, for sure. You submit your college transcripts with your application, so you do have to make sure to get good grades in college. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything like super grueling about the applying to law school process. You just kind of, you have to be responsible. You have to meet deadlines. You have to, like we mentioned, make sure that you were studious in college and that you got good grades, because a lot of the times it's the grades translate into money in law school.
The more money you get, the higher your
better grades. The grades, the better your LSAT score, the more money that you're going to get. So again, finances have always been important to me and a big reason of why I choose the schools that I've gone to. So
where's Loyola?
It's in downtown LA.
Oh, it's nearby.
Yeah, it's part of Loyola. It's part of Loyola Marymount, but the law school campus is in downtown LA just because they wanted to be close to all the law firms.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So you said high school you thought was like a lot of work, whatever. Then you get to college and it's way more. But then you went to law school. So what was law school like? How was that transition from college?
Way more. It's definitely.
How many hours a day were you working and studying and stuff?
I mean, I'm gonna say 14 hours a day, just kind of in between class, studying, reading, prepping, networking events, outside activities of classes. It's more than a full-time job going to law school, but I wouldn't, like, in the moment, I was never miserable. I was miserable when, studying for finals. That was absolutely horrendous. But we all go through, horrendous things in our lives. I wouldn't say that would discourage me from doing it again. I would do it 1,000 times over again. I think a little challenge is good for people. It's not good to be like super comfortable and just kind of static in your life. You meet so many people. Yeah, you meet a lot of people. It challenges you, it helps you grow as a person. And I would recommend law school. I think law school seemed to be harder than it is. And when I speak about it and say, I was doing like 14-hour days and this and that, it sounds horrible, but in the moment it's not, because it's not like I'm just sitting at my desk for 14 hours. Like in class, you're engaging with the professors, you're engaging with your classmates, so that, it feels different. There's times where you do have to sit down and read and outline, but then you're also out there. They have what they call law reviews, which is essentially like law school newspapers, but they're published journals. Courts use these journals to rule on cases. Sometimes they're cited in a lot of case law. So it's like a newspaper, but it reaches kind of the country, not just your school. So I was involved with that. I was a staff member. Because you can only apply going into your second year of law school. So I was a staff member my second year and a board editor my third year of law school, which is the last year of law school. So that
Very
also
good.
brings a different aspect
An
to
editor.
it.
So how
Yeah.
did you decide on what kind of a lawyer you wanted to be? I know there's different types of law.
Yeah, there's so many different types of law. Even now, I'm learning of all the different types of law that I still don't know exist. So, like I mentioned, I'm not an extrovert whatsoever. When you think of lawyers, you think of movies and shows where they're just arguing with each other and in the courtroom. And I knew that wasn't going to be me. So those are called litigators. I know myself and I might cry in front of a judge. So I knew for sure litigation was out of the question for me. So then the next natural course for me was transactional law, which just kind of, contracts basically is what you do. And then I thought that's what I want to do. And then I got into the firm where I am now, and they have regulatory law, which, it's a bunch of consulting. I practice healthcare regulatory law. So
Wow.
it involves just consulting hospitals, senior living facilities on, what the laws are, what the regulations are, how they comply with them, what they need to do, staffing needs,
Kind of
drug licensing.
in some way making sure the hospital doesn't get sued and does the right
Exactly.
thing. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I do, and that's what I like to do, because again, I don't want to be in the courtroom. I know that's not me. So a lot of people, when I told them I wanted to be a lawyer, especially when I was younger, they would be like, "Oh, like you don't really talk that much. Like how?"
I had a professor in college. He taught English and German, but he was a defense attorney for people on death row, and he was
Wow.
saying he would just do the writing part. He
Oh
wouldn't
yeah,
go to court. So you don't even have to go to court as a lawyer. People don't always
yeah,
do that.
yeah. So if you ever have thought about law and you're not, the most extroverted, talkative person out there, there is absolutely a kind of law out there for you. You don't need to go to court. You don't need to even talk to really many people. In some types of law, um, some things I've done. Yeah,
What?
I'm reading the slide.
Oh, yeah. I think she's a legal assistant, legal clerk, a review board member. That she mentioned that. She was an international students mentor, meaning she mentored the international students at UCI.
Yeah. Mhm.
And you did translation. How did you get involved with translating stuff? Because again, a lot of students here know two languages and don't realize it's such a great benefit.
Yeah, it was when I was a legal clerk in college. It was part of we had to do an internship as part of the major. And I was at a small boutique law firm in Irvine. And then, you know, 99.5 of the lawyers there were white. So no one spoke Spanish, and we would get a lot of clients from Santa Ana, so a lot of Spanish speaking clients, and the receptionist spoke Spanish, but not the lawyers. So they kind of wanted me to learn more about the law and be able to translate legal terms. So that's how I started translating. And then in law school, I kept it up too when I would still help out the Irvine law firm. Even now on my job, some of the pro bono cases that we have,
Those are the ones they do
usually
for
bring
free.
me
They
on.
get paid pro
Yes.
bono.
Yes, they usually bring me on because I speak Spanish, because, sadly in the legal world, there's almost no Latina lawyers out there. I am one of 3 lawyers in the office who are Hispanic. So
How many
Spanish
lawyers are there in your office?
67.
Wow.
Yeah, it's sad to see, and
It's the same with college. Like you're in Montebello High School, you're the majority, but then you go to a lot of colleges and suddenly you're the minority. And
yeah,
where you work is even 3 out of 60 something is quite a small amount.
yeah, and it makes
More valuable. It makes
feel,
to me it seems like people they seek out because a lot of places want diversity. So it makes you more valuable in some sense.
yeah, it for sure does make you more valuable, especially being able to speak Spanish. Again, we have all these, the firm that I work in is pretty big, so our clients are not really, individual people. So Spanish is not needed in like their regular work. But in all of the pro bono work that we do, it's almost always with Spanish speaking clients just because we're in LA. And it makes me a really great asset to the firm to speak Spanish and be able to help them in all of these cases. So definitely speaking more than one language, any language is amazing, and you should practice it because it's going to be very useful to you once you're out working in the world. Yeah.
So, let's talk about the good stuff. So you work so hard, you become a lawyer, you're making probably good money. What are some fun things or opportunities and good stuff that you've gotten to do just because of how hard you worked?
So the first thing that comes to mind is that I get to travel for work quite a lot. I started in November and I've been on 4 work trips already. And on the work trips, it's amazing because they pay for flight, hotel, food. They take you out to super nice restaurants and you get to go to like fancy dinners and museums. And it's an amazing perk that I never thought I would ever experience. Coming from where I come from, I wasn't really exposed to a lot of these things growing up. So I like that I get to be pampered for free and it doesn't come out of my pocket. I would say that's like the biggest perk of working.
If you ever need someone to translate Ukrainian, I'll go on a trip with you. That's great to hear.
Yeah, it's great. Other perks is obviously the money. I have never made this kind of money before, so it's nice to not worry about that. Like I said, my college and law school decisions were made because of the money. I had to choose these schools because of the money, So it's nice that money, it's not such a prevalent thought in my mind anymore. It's nice to be financially secure and just kind of, it's one less thing to worry about, that unfortunately is something we think about a lot. And
yeah, I remember some of the most stressful times in college in my life. We're in my family, my parents was worrying about money. How are we going to pay the rent?
Yeah.
How are we going to pay our bills? Oh my God, the car broke down. How are we going to get somewhere? We don't have the money to fix it. It's very stressful money when you don't have it. It's not everything in life, but when you don't have it, it's everything because you're so stressed out.
Yeah, for sure.
Ask them. Do anybody have any questions you want to ask before we kind of wrap it up? I think you should pay for it. Do you know how much you paid or how much in loans you paid for college?
So in college, I only paid about $5,000. That was the only thing that came out of my pocket, which was amazing, which, why I went to UC Irvine. So I didn't really come out with many debt or any debt at all from college. And then law school, that one was more. Loyola paid for about 60% of
That's good.
everything. So I came out of there with about $80,000 in loans, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't when you take into account, how much money you'll be making after law school and how fast you'll be able to pay it off. So I don't like to discourage people from going to college and going to law school or medical school, whatever they want, because of the money. I do encourage everyone to think about what the return is going to be, though. Just if you go and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in education, and we have to be realistic about it, and you choose a major that's not going to be lucrative to you, then that's when it gets tough.
Yeah, we've had that. And I try to warn students, if you're going to go be a social worker, you're never going to get paid what you deserve. We deserve to get paid a lot, exactly. Right? But you go to USC and you spend $200,000, you literally might be paying that back for 30 years. Yeah. But you have in business, you're going to go into business, or like you said, law or medicine, where you're going to make 100, 150, sometimes $500,000 at some point a year. You can pay it back, and you have to be smart about where your decision. Doesn't mean don't be smart about it.
Yeah.
Any other question? School, life, law?
Anything.
1 second. So how long did it take you to finish college and law school and everything? You might want to even mention, what was it like taking the bar exam? So when you graduate law school, you still have to take an exam to be a lawyer. It's called the bar exam. Was that really, really hard?
Yeah. So in
I know
total,
it took
college
him
was
4 times before he passed it.
who did?
I know one. He's a district attorney now. My friend's husband.
Oh,
It took like 4 or 5 times to pass it.
yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one. um, College was 4 years and law school is 3 years, and then I took a gap year in between college and law school. So total, it was 8 years after high school, which I have to say,
By fast.
blink of an eye. Yeah, like I still feel like I was just in high school 2 years ago, and it's been almost 10 years, and it's ridiculous to think about.
You
So
still
don't
look
let
like you're in high
time.
school too.
Sorry.
You still look like you're in high school.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Um,
don't let time discourage you. Time is going to pass by whether you're pursuing your goals or not. So, might as well let 8 years pass by, and then you're whatever you want to be after those 8 years. So for sure, time should not be something you're concerned about, especially being so young. And I still feel super young too. I'm 27 and I don't feel a day over 22. And then the bar. Yeah, that was probably the toughest time academically I've had in my life. It's really challenging. It's 2 months of just constant studying. I was putting in again, 12, 14 hours a day, but that you feel because that you are literally at your desk just studying all day long. And yeah, it was extremely tough. I'm a person that doesn't really I work well under pressure, and the bar cracked me.
oh,
It
wow.
did. I was not working well under pressure, and it was the first time in my life where I was extremely stressed about, school.
So that brings up the question I was going to ask after this. The last question I have is, how did you handle anytime you had a really difficult diversity or something overwhelming to work with? How did you cope?
I think it has a lot to do with the people that you surround yourself with.
Wow.
I am very grateful to have extremely supportive family, extremely supportive friends, extremely supportive boyfriend, and everyone just kind of knew, that I was preparing to take the bar and I was on this journey, and I didn't see my friends in all this time, and everyone was super understanding. Like no one was upset that I never replied. I disappeared for 2.5 months, basically. And everyone was super understanding and supportive. And when I was in, active breakdowns and crying, I would just Gio, my boyfriend, is usually the person that would have to deal with that. So I would just call him up, or he would come over and bring me food and, kind of just comfort me, remind me why I'm doing what I was doing. But it really is about, yeah. Yeah, it's about the people that you surround yourself with. You have to make sure that, everyone around you understands what you're doing, because you are, at least for me, and I know a lot of my friends who were also studying for the bar last summer, you're under a lot of stress and you're very moody, and you are going to be, passive aggressive with your family. And, my mom, I live with my mom and my sister. They've told me that I was horrible to be around during those 2.5 months of studying, because I was just under so much pressure. And I didn't even talk about my work experience, but basically you have to pass the bar to be able to work. If you can't pass the bar, you're not going to get a job, money, you're not going to be able to pay your loans. So really, like, it feels like everything is riding on this one test. And California is insane when it comes to the bar. California and New York are the two hardest bars to pass. The pass rate when I took it was 53%, which is ridiculous. Like
all the lawyers who studied all through college, only half of them passed it the first time, I guess.
Yeah.
But you get to at least retake it.
Yes, you do get to retake it. And when you're working at a firm, they usually only let you retake it one other time, though. After that, they kind of just rescind your offer.
Yeah,
yeah. So I didn't talk about it, but when I mentioned how you get a job in law firms in law school is through a process called on-campus interviews, where law firms just go to the school and interview all the students, and it's a week just of like back-to-back interviews, which is also another like stressful week. And then they offer you a summer position with the law firm, and then you work in the summer, and then they offer you a permanent position. I was supposed to work the summer of 2020, and because of everything, it got canceled. So I didn't get to work. I didn't have any money coming in that summer. Thankfully, I was their diversity scholar, so I had a scholarship. So they still gave me that scholarship, and they offered me a position post law school, even though they had never worked with me. So, you know, they took a big risk.
Well, they got a good person and a good lawyer, I'm sure. You're a very good student. You're a very good person too. So I know you'll be a great lawyer.
Yeah, so that's how you get a job in private law firms. If you're interested more in government work, which would be, you know, prosecutor, defender, that's you usually clerk with a judge during law school, and then you just apply after law school. Grades aren't as important. Law school grades aren't as important for government jobs, which I don't know why. I feel like, you know,
that explains a lot. Have people with bad grades in the
government. And then if you want to go into private, it's called big law. I don't know how familiar anyone is with law school and like job hunting process, but big law are like the bigger law firms, bigger private law firms, and those go through OCI and are based mainly on your first year grades. So your first year law school grades are probably the most crucial if you want to go into big law after law school. I didn't know what I wanted to go into. I went in thinking I was going to be an immigration lawyer. And then Mr. D knows some personal things went down in my family where I kind of had to step up financially. So that kind of like changed, made up my law school path as well, where I knew that, you know, I couldn't really be a government lawyer because I couldn't support my family at that salary. So I kind of had to go into private practice. So yeah, you just kind of
the people who are doing things for good often don't get paid. That's the sad part.
It's very sad. Yeah, very, very sad. That's not how it should be. You know, it goes to everything, you know, teaching, social work, like we talked about, everything is extremely underpaid for what I believe are the toughest jobs around. And sadly, we're kind of have to.
Any last questions, anybody? We thank you very much for giving us your time. You're great, you're smart, you're beautiful, you're hardworking, you're a great role model.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. You know, let me stop recording for a second. Mr. Fraser.